Go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, where are you on schools of hope? I know that there's a big difference right now between the Senate and the House bill. I guess how critical is this issue in the budget?
It's a critical issue. It was a major priority that was passed 2 years ago, and it's working. It's attracting a great deal of choice schools. It's a very important issue.
How are you feeling about the prescription drug? Your program seems to be quite a bit different than the Senate. The Senate's moving theirs, you pass yours. Is there enough time to kind of bridge those programs and make them look the same?
I think that we will. The good news is that both chambers have seen the importance of that bill and have moved it along. Working out the details is part of the last 2 weeks.
The Senate bill would require prior legislative approval, so even if the Fed signed off on it and you all approved it and the Fed signed off, you'd have to go back, kind of like the a la Medicaid reform.
Right.
Do you like that idea?
I think, obviously we like the bill the way that it just passed in the House. We think that there's existing law there that already has a certain amount of regulation. I don't know that an additional layer of regulation would make it easier for people to access medications. So we're still having that discussion.
I think following up on that, would you be willing to give up the second pathway that's outlined in the House bill with regard to just general international importation that would be allowed?
I don't think that that's part of the discussion of trying to give it up. I think that they're two very different things. Both require some level of federal approval. So I don't think that there's any particular danger of it not being properly looked at by everyone that's in charge of keeping safety in prescription drugs.
One of the reasons why I ask is because Senate President Albano obviously said that was a portion of the bill that he had some concerns with before session began. I'm wondering if you guys have had any further conversations or if you've gotten any indication that he's swayed in his thinking about his concerns regarding that.
I think his main concerns revolved around doing something outside of existing federal law, and the bill requires federal approval. So I think he's reached a greater level of comfort with that.
The Senate just passed a strike-all amendment to their big school safety bill. It included some of the House provisions. Have you had a chance to review the changes and what they approved and what they did over there?
I've not been able to see them. As you know, we've been up here all day. But obviously, as things start to get closer to the end, the more that we line up, the more productive the session's going to be. So I'm glad to hear it.
What about regarding mental health funding? I know that you're about $30 million charge. Is there any talks yet about whether you can move them or
the talks on the budget are still at a higher level. We're still dealing with allocations in the individual silos, so we're not down to that level yet. But it will most certainly be a topic of conversation.
What about
so there's
AOB?
3 weeks left. Is there time, energy? I know. Is there 3 weeks left? Is there time, energy, or appetite to do a gaming bill on this side?
We are late in session. If there's a possibility of doing something, and it could be productive, and it could be productive to the overall budget, we certainly look at it. I would tell you that while I do think time is certainly of the essence, it depends on what the nature of that agreement will be, because some of that will require a lot of back and forth. But I think that there's still time. The thing about session is that in the last few weeks, we really start to use every hour of the day. So
if you did it, are there any preconditions that you would put on the situation before you agreed to tackle it?
I have to see it. I mean, we have to see what it is that'll be proposed. But no, at this point, I don't have any.
You don't have any preconditions? I
don't know.
Can you comment on AOB? You passed it over here. It's, those are, again, two very different approaches. How strongly do you feel about the House bill, and is this something that you all...
We always feel very strongly about the House position on things, but it's part of a negotiation. I mean, that's why we have two chambers. But we feel strongly that we have a good bill.
Is it part of an overall insurance train? It begins to kind of get this feeling that there may be a train moving on the insurance issues.
There really isn't. The problem with trains is that sometimes there's important things in there, and a train has a way of weighing itself down. So we tried to stay away from the idea of trains. But no, there's no plan to have an insurance train.
Thank you.
Speaker, given that we are almost 3 weeks left now, there have been a lot of substantive bills that have gone to the governor's desk, but one that was one that he pretty much asked for you guys to do. How would you sum up his influence and impact on what kind of a footprint do you think he's had so far on the session as far as the governor?
Well, I think the first thing that he's done that was very helpful, having been a legislator, is understand the legislative process, understand how that works. And so he hasn't been impatient about the fact that a lot of the work gets done right near the end. a lot of things get worked out right near the end, and he understands that. He's a legislator. The other thing that he's been very helpful with is been very clear on what are the things that are important to him. And he's been very clear about communicating that to both chambers and having one-on-one meetings and communicating that. So I think all in all, he's done a fantastic job of, one, understanding the process, and two, being clear about what's important to him.
What is important to him? That
I think environment is very important to him. Choice in education is important. I believe the most important thing to him is healthcare, though. Healthcare is by far the most important thing to the governor. I'm kidding. It's obviously environment.
Well, he's mentioned the sanctuary city bill as being one of the things he wants to see get through, but it hasn't been agenda in its last committee stop in either chamber. And is that just stalled? And is that something that's going to come through in the last 3 weeks?
There's a lot of things that I think will still come through here that might appear stalled. We were going over special order for next week. There are a lot of bills. Next week's going to be a busy week, and the 2 weeks after that, we're going to be in this chamber almost all day. There's still a lot of things to get done.
And so that's one of them that can get done.
There's time for that still.
So in the effort to try to get some more money for Hurricane Michael recovery, the slowness of payment out of the federal government right now may have been underscored this week with some of the money coming in for Hurricane Irma, which goes back even further. Does that put any pressure on you and the legislature to try to front more money out of this legislature for that recovery?
It does. We have to basically make a calculation. It's an estimate of what we think we will get. You see that we did that in our budget, and then we have to figure out how much more is needed if that amount of money does not come in. So we've made a strong commitment on our side in our budget to make sure that there are dollars there, regardless of the pace of the federal dollars.
Is it likely to rise at all, what you have in there now? In the closing?
It's possible, but of the two positions, the House is the higher position right now.
Two more.
You had mentioned that sanctuary cities is one of a number of bills that you expect will be heard fairly soon. Do you have any kind of timeline on exactly when that might happen? Next week, week after that?
I don't foresee it being on the floor next week, but we said 3 weeks still.
The committees are over after next week, right?
Yes.
There
So
are a
it's going to come
couple.
up next week.
In committee, not on the floor.
Are you planning on pulling anything from committee that doesn't make it through its final committee stop?
Generally, you'd like to run the process as it is. Ultimately, we have flexibility, but generally, we like to run the process as we intend.
There's a few abortion bills moving through the process. Are you concerned with constitutional issues with those?
Yeah, I think the abortion question is going to become a constitutional question soon again because of the different movement of the different states. So it's quite possible, but people feel strongly about it.
How strongly do you care about the born alive felony provision in the House version of the parental consent bill? It's not in the Senate version, if I understand correctly.
I think that we'll bring it to the floor and see what the body thinks of it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very much.